Scuderia Ferrari secured a decent result last weekend at the 4.381-kilometer Hungaroring in Budapest, in line with the difficult period following the Monaco Grand Prix. The Budapest weekend saw the Italian team respond technically with the introduction of the first anti-bouncing corrections, a modified floor, but the SF-24 currently shows a technical gap from the front to be recovered. The SF-24 single-seater demonstrated a race pace similar to that of the leaders with the hard tires, but it is not enough to return to fighting for podiums and victories. Team principal Frederic Vasseur confirmed after the race that the final result, with a Ferrari just off the podium, is the best that can be achieved under normal conditions. He believed they had a solid weekend and were in a good fight with Red Bull and Mercedes during the race. Overall, he thinks they got the maximum possible this weekend with a P4 and a P6. The Maranello technicians, during the week-long break between Silverstone and Budapest, worked on the problematic floor introduced at the Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona. It was declared an evolution, but it was merely a small adjustment of the Spanish specification that had disappointed on track. The aerodynamicists at Maranello applied corrections in one of the critical areas of the floor, namely the diffuser area, by cross-referencing computational fluid dynamics and track data without using hours and runs in the wind tunnel. The bouncing problem has not been completely eradicated, but the trigger point has been delayed. Frederic Vasseur commented after the Hungarian Grand Prix that they need to find the right compromise between load and bouncing, which will vary based on the track and setup. Budapest was not the harshest track for bouncing, but the situation was positive in this regard. Bouncing in medium-fast corners costs Ferrari about 0.3 seconds on average. The driver's feeling has improved, but there is still room to eliminate the bouncing completely. Moreover, even without bouncing, the SF-24 would have an average gap of 0.15 to 0.2 seconds from the MCL-38 single-seater, which has become the technical benchmark in this stage of the 2024 Formula One Championship. From this perspective, the Hungarian Grand Prix is a partial disappointment, especially because the Maranello team expected to be more competitive against Mercedes. One of the main issues remains the performance in qualifying, where bouncing continues to manifest, while in the race, at lower speeds, the SF-24 car remains drivable and fairly fast. The real development of the floor will arrive after the summer break. Meanwhile, some more corrections to bouncing are planned for the Belgian Grand Prix. If the Hungarian floor could be considered a patch of the floor brought to Spain, the real next development package will be introduced after the summer break, currently planned for the Marina Bay Street Circuit, where the Maranello team expects to be competitive. However, they will try to introduce it sooner, likely in Azerbaijan, while it seems quite more complicated to do so already in Zandvoort, because the idea of spreading the updates is alive and could allow the Italian team's technicians to better understand the car as it undergoes various modifications. The team principal emphasized that they should not revolutionize things, but make small steps forward. McLaren and Mercedes have already taken this path after an initially more aggressive development. Ferrari is evaluating decisions on the update front as it goes because the priority, after the last failed Barcelona Aerodynamic update package, is to bring new parts as soon as they find something that technically helps the car. For Belgium, some mechanical corrections are planned, not necessarily related to the bouncing problem, and will not be declared in the usual FIA document before the first free practice session on Friday. The Spa-Francorchamps track is certainly not a circuit that helps those suffering from bouncing. Although Budapest was not penalizing for bouncing and there were some positive responses, Spa will be a different circuit. New anti-roll springs should help the SF-24 car have a more stable platform and less restricted setup window. But the colder weather compared to hot Budapest will often negatively affect the performance of Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz's car. Having a more unloaded wing setup should make the bouncing situation less critical under equal conditions in the qualifying session. In Belgium, the medium-low load wing declared, but not used, in Saudi Arabia, and seen at the first filming day in February, should be seen again. Team principal Frederic Vasseur seems to suggest that Ferrari will indeed bring the evolved floor from Hungary to the Belgian Grand Prix, as Carlos Sainz had hinted immediately after the Budapest race. Frederic Vasseur summarized the current situation of the Scuderia Ferrari by stating that the Belgian Grand Prix closes a particularly demanding July for the Maranello team on track and for those working at the factory back in Maranello. the Spa-Francorchamps circuit will allow them to verify if the work done in recent weeks has mitigated the side effects of the recently introduced upgrade package in high-speed corners. Bouncing was significantly reduced at the Hungaroring, thanks to the evolution of the floor brought to Budapest, and now they will see if it remains so on the Belgian curves. Initially, Ferrari's plans were to bring the old floor, the one introduced at the Imola circuit, to Spa in order to avoid the bouncing problems experienced since Montmello. The Spa-Francorchamps circuit is a favorite among drivers, and for Charles Leclerc, it evokes sweet memories as he secured his first Formula One victory there in the 2019 season. Frederic Vasseur recalled that their drivers have always loved this track, where a driver's skill can make a real difference, and Charles Leclerc achieved his first win in Formula One there in 2019. The French manager believes that if they provide Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc with an SF-24 car that they can confidently push to the limit, they could have a competitive weekend and bring home many points. Currently, in the championship standings, Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz are third and fourth among the drivers, while Ferrari has been overtaken by McLaren for second place in the 2024 Formula One Constructors' Championship. A week after the Hungarian Grand Prix, Formula One is therefore heading to the Spa-Francorchamps circuit this weekend for the Belgian Grand Prix, the last race before the summer break. This track has always been one of the most challenging in the world, dating back to the time it was twice as long as its current 7 kilometers. It has provided the backdrop to legendary battles and breathtaking displays of skill from some of the biggest stars in the motor racing firmament. The Ardennes roller coaster has seen wins for Alberto Ascari, Jim Clark, Ayrton Senna, and Michael Schumacher, who took his maiden Formula One win here in 1992, just as Charles Leclerc did in 2019, his first year with Scuderia Ferrari. There will be very little summer-like weather during the upcoming weekend, especially in terms of temperatures, which will have little in common with those recently experienced at the Hungaroring, both in terms of climate and track surface conditions. In the long history of the Belgian Grand Prix, there have often been races held in bad weather conditions, or ones that started on a dry track and ended on a wet one, or vice versa. These changes have been particularly evident at Spa-Francorchamps, a track located in the heart of the Ardennes forest. For this weekend, according to the latest weather forecast, the highest chances of rain are forecasted for Friday, especially in the morning, during the first practice session. Specifically, precipitation is estimated at 75%, but the percentages will gradually decrease as the day progresses. With maximum temperatures always estimated around 22 degrees Celsius throughout the Belgian weekend, there is still a risk of rain for the following day, but much lower and calculated at 25%. Saturday is expected to be mostly cloudy, as is race day, but with a few more rays of sunshine and no need for umbrellas. But rain is always a possibility in this part of Belgium, with sudden occasional storms or relentless rain that can cause chaos over the weekend. Not only does this make the cars hard to manage, but it can really mix up the order in qualifying and the race, given that overtaking in the wet is always a tricky proposition.